Now, one thing you'll find when you do this is that often the color will shift quite dramatically, but you can then kind of I guess, if you took out, I mean, we don't need the color in this, so we can just take out the color all over, and the luminosity is better. So the luminosity is correct. It's just the color shift because we're working in channels. If that makes sense. But anyway, so say I've done that quickly. Luminosity wise, that kind of matches. But all I need to do is just quickly clone to kind of just change it up a bit. Or use the healing brush. Love the healing brush. It's a great tool. Saves a lot of time. Except because I've got so many files open, it's taking forever to do everything. But yeah, you just go in and just remove any of the obvious repeats. Obviously the type's an obvious repeat. So. But, I'll do this on, when I'm texturing something up, and, I guess, there's obviously you kind of need to experiment with textures. You don't know necessarily if they're going to work, but, so you can drop them in, or sometimes I'll just drop them in, see if they work, and then I'll go back and do this. But often if I know I'm going to use something, which I guess, just from experience, you just kind of know if something's going to work or not. It just saves you the pain of doing things twice. So you just go, okay, I'm going to use this. Let's just quickly, make it into a nice image. So anyway, that will do. That annoys me. So I copy it, take it onto my lattice plate, and paste. Now, obviously, it's still nowhere near big enough, but it's much closer in proportion. So I'm not going to lose too much by scaling it. So same again. I mean, I might add a bit more contrast to this one first. So I may go through the composite layers, see what kind of works for me. Obviously the types, the scribble here wouldn't really work normally in kind of, I guess, what we're trying to achieve. But, straight off the bat, their tiles are nearly gone, and we've got this massive kind of 10K, 300 meg plate. Nice and kind of contrasty and gritty. So, now, you may zoom in and go, okay, let's compare. What did we lose? I guess, there's a little bit of a goldeny green colour, the goldeny browns. But it's, I guess, to these metal kind of specs that you see. Now I can try and bring them back out. And also the really slight bevel on the edges. Obviously there's a tile line that, I didn't mask it properly, but, that's something we can put back into. But say we'll get the spec first. So, find a channel where you can see it. Blue's best. Sorry, getting to a big file here, so it's a bit slow to do things. But okay, so say you really just want to bring out the spec. You're going to mask there, turn everything on. Maybe pick the colour that you want. Let's get some of that nice goldeny colour. And then now you can, lots of ways to do this, but you could just correct it. Maybe that gold back into it. So now, one of the problems is that you will get the repeat there. So what I tend to do now is go, okay, what can I do? So either you brush in, you just brush areas out. Because obviously you're kind of defeating the purpose of the work you've done to remove the tiling. So you go in there and you can just kind of, It takes a while when you're working on files this big, but yeah, you're just brushing out bits of the spec that you don't really, that doesn't matter so much, and that just helps break up the image again. Or the other thing you can do is you could paste, one of these textures on opacity into the mask. I mean, you can go into channels and do work there, or you can, sometimes I'll even do things like fibers. Fibers are pretty cool. They give you a nice random result. You can randomize them, and they're good to. Then you just fade that. So that'll help kind of break it up a little bit more. Then you'll probably have to kind of, maybe paste in stuff, brush out more. You need to just kind of work it or massage it, whatever you want to call it. But, looking at that, it's definitely a lot better than this kind of just boring repeated tile, and it still has the same kind of texture, I mean, you just brush out, and type doesn't work, so we'll get rid of that. And then if you still really wanted that, I guess that nice beveled edge, you can do that. You could probably get that with just a layer effect. So I'll do selection, invert it, copy merged. Anyway, so paste that, and then go to blending options. Come on. And then you could just do a bevel. Make that down a bevel. Yeah, and there you go. You got kind of get your little bevel back. Obviously it's a bit rough, but anyway, let's just move on. So say you're getting there. This, I mean, it looks a lot less tile than it does. Now let's just see what happens when we try and distort this to fit in that on that floor. Alright, so you paste it in here. And remember, it's a very big file. So, okay, let's see if we can get this to work on the floor. Now, I know it's not going to, but I just wanted to show you why. Now, first up, again, it's just res is essential here. You really need really high res stuff to start with, especially when you're going to distort this much. Now, it's not a big enough area to do this whole floor. You'd need, probably 4 to 8 times the size. So you'd have to you'd have to keep making it. Now, I think one of the tricks really is to just work in sections for various reasons, but it does, file size is one of them. Now you can see as soon as you start distorting the meringue pattern, that's just a clash of angles. Now, what we're going to find is, say I bring that in, that one goes out. So I just concentrate on this front area here. Try and keep as much information there. Now, I can't really see if my circles are even. Let's say that will do. Now I know automatic straight off you're going to get problems, and you can see them here just in the preview. Now, one of the biggest problems here is actually the file size of the mat. It's not big enough, so there isn't enough pixel information. You can see the aliasing up here. There isn't enough, I guess, pixel information in here for Photoshop to be able to resolve the distortion. So it's all right down the front. It's not so bad, but even then, you can see the aliasing when we're past 100%. So it just doesn't have the file information. So one of the things I would, if you needed to do this, you really need to be working with a bigger mat. So maybe say something like 6. Okay, so now I have a 6K mat. So when I paste it in, obviously it's not going to be as big in the scene. But, even though we have, even though we're going to have aliasing here because we've interpolated the original sized mat, we're going to have a lot more pixel information when it distorts in the areas we need to. So, this foreground area is the most essential. Now, this back area, we can use things like the Z depth to blur it a little, and you'll get away. By the time a repeated pattern, by the time it gets back there, it's not going to, it's not really, you're not going to see it. It's not going to be something that's, that visible. So really, the main aim is to get the front working, and there are ways to deal with the back, but you're still going to have problems. But let's see if this one works better, which I know it will, because I know that resolution is, one of the big problems. Okay, so that just finished, and you can see. Okay, just to quickly talk about Moray. Now, there's 2 cases here, and I don't even know if this will translate to the screen capture, but you have, screen issues where at certain percentages that you're going to see a Moray pattern. But if you view your file at 100%, if it's not doing it, then it's not going to be in the file. But then, you have the patterns that are in the file because Photoshop can't resolve the distortion. So here you have it there, but it's much less pronounced than when we were doing it at HD size. So you can see why that, it's really important that you deal, I guess, your mats are big enough, but, you take into consideration, what, if you're going to be doing large areas like this with tiling or distorting, or etc. You take into account how you're going to distort it, and I guess, and how it's going to apply. Now, say if I wanted to incorporate this better, because it's not bad, it's getting there. Say I wanted to put that on a highlight's probably a bit hard. Say put it on an overlay. It's maybe a bit green, looks better like that. I'd give it just a 1 pixel blur. And that just kind of softens it off to kind of sit in a bit better. Now it's a bit squashy. So you may need to... Except that's not going to work. You have problems over here. You can see them. Again, like I said, it's a bit kind of I guess the proportions weren't correct in the perspective, but that's okay. Now, you might want to just slightly work it into the image a little. Kind of randomly brush bits away in the mask. And break it up even more. Just kind of overpaint bits into it. Maybe you've got maybe you need a yellow kind of safety line. There. But, working in sections will help a lot here. Just dealing with one bit at a time. Because as I said, you need it just won't work. It's too large an area to do with one texture. Okay, so there's your safety line. Break that up a little. Now, good trick here. Expand, make a selection of your mask. Expand it by, whatever, depending on your resolution. And then just add a huge amount of noise. Blur it. Oh, only one or two. And just curve your noise. Basically, you're just trying to create kind of a broken up edge. And there are other things you can use. Kind of there's filters and stuff as well, like paint filters and the filter gallery that does it. I tend just to use noise a lot, just do things with it, like blur it and sharpen it and enlarge it. And the same as fibers too. Fibers are good for this. But say roughly, there's your kind of broken up edge. Because it looks just more natural. So yeah, I mean that's that's kind of the case. So now, I mean, if we res this down back to 1920, let's pause it again. Okay, so now I've res it back down. You can see we don't have the problem with the meringue, but we do have, not enough pixel information to see the dots. But it doesn't necessarily look like a tiled pattern. We have our screen meringue, but if you look like that, it's not, it's not an overly repeated pattern. I mean, it is obviously because it's a grid, but it doesn't look like what it would if it was just a straight tile. So I mean that there's a few ways you can deal with that. I really go back to thinking, well, if you can shoot it or you add more detail in the model, you're better off. But there are ways around everything. I mean, I'll just jump to this shot. I'm running out of time. So here's our base renders. These shots here, right? Now, I didn't end up using these, but they're a good example of, I think that's a rail yard in Cockatoo Island or something, but I've probably distorted these shots from something I've shot. I didn't end up using it, but I'll always, I'll always experiment. So as I'm building up the shot, I'll just, and this is why I wanted to look at this shot, because I know I incorporated a hell of a lot of textures that I didn't use and shots I didn't use. But also because I was under time pressure, there were things like this staircase that I just, whacked in. So there's a shot side of it. I think it's Cockatoo Island as well. And the lighting's probably completely wrong, but we have a bit of downlight coming from these skylights up here, so it's not too bad. But more that it was like, well, I just need to add detail. So you can see, you keep, if I just keep turning on layers in this shot, you'll see where I've added either complete photos and just kind of masked them in, or textures. Now, here's a good example of a wall of texture. Now these, I think they're from the Total Texture sci-fi ones. I mean, the problem with those kind of texture discs is that the res is usually absolutely awful. And just, it's from the old school days where everything was PAL, and so you can't, they're not that useful. They might be good if you're repeating them, but you just have to keep experimenting to see, but use them subtly and they'll work. What I'm showing you here is just, I'll just keep building up the file. There'll be occasions where I'll paint stuff, but I'll just keep building it up and building it up until I get to the point that I need to do overpainting, to really just incorporate these textures into the shot. But I mean, you can see, really, it looks pretty ugly, until you actually start building it up enough. And you can see one of the shots down here, these are just pipes and you can see how heavily distorted it is too. I mean, I'm just distorting it to try and kind of match the shot. And it doesn't need to be perfect. because you'll find that you get away with a lot once you build it up enough, and then you put the render passes back over the top, and you paint. You get away with heaps. You can see, there's another good example of a shot. I may have, it's probably just off the web. Something from some kind of industrial factory. Yeah, just detail. And obviously, it's all, the lighting's all wrong at the moment, but, you find that all gets tied together by the ambient occlusion, for example, and some light passes, and then you can just see it slowly coming together as you bring in all the different passes, all your different lights. And then all your different kind of final texturing stuff. And you overpaint. So the overpaint would have had a copy merged. So that's why that's disappearing. Probably because I had it turned off when I did my copy merge. And then you can see that there's depth there as well. Just a bit of fog. Just trying to bring those blacks together. And then, it's the sunlight pass at the end that I don't think we used, but it kind of looks nice. But you can see by the time you get to this stage, you don't see any of that kind of mishmash of textures. It's all there, but it's all covered by so many different passes and shadows and lights and, even the staircase. I mean, there's a few little heights there. It could have been fixed, but, you get away with it. There's all these just shots. You can see the shots down and under there. I mean, they're not perfect, but when you zoom back out like that, it all kind of sits. So you can see what you get away with. Quickly, I'm just going to jump around a bit, but I'm just going to jump to this because again I'm running out of time. Now this, in particular, shot, there was a water tank, one of these massive kind of water tanks. I don't know if you have them in every country. I'm assuming you do, because I believe that's just part of the water supply system. But, there's one down the road from where I was living at the time. So it was great because it had kind of the base, panels that I wanted. And it just had some nice textures. Now you can see they're not very dirty. And again, I just use all the same methods I've been describing to dirty them up. We use some concrete overlaying and just really, really layering textures up. And then I'll I would have gone in. I'll try and see what if I can just turn stuff off and on just to show you quickly. And then kind of a grade. Now, a lot of these were repeated, and then I just had to kind of change them around a bit just to make them look less repeated. And one of the things I did actually with this shot, I'll see if I can find it in the layers here. But there was, because I couldn't actually get on top of the water tank to shoot down into it, these were actually all shot from the outside looking up. So when you get to angles like this down here, it was very difficult to get the right kind of perspective when I was shooting. So I actually made a little panel. I just got a piece of metal and put some rivets in it and shot that on different angles. And I mean, I've done that a few times with textures, kind of making a little miniature version of something that I need. Mainly because it's the quickest. I mean, you can see the amount of rust I kind of incorporated into this. And that would have been on various kind of composite blend modes. Yeah. There's using all the same methods that I've talked about with everything else today. Just kind of lots of blending, lots of layering, make it nice and dirty. Oh, there you go. There's the original. Now, the Type 2, I just wanted to talk about that. same thing again. I would have made masks from, I would have either used the blend mode, the advanced blending to bring through some of the texture, or else I would have made masks out of some of the texture and brushed in the type. There's lots of different ways to do it, but essentially it's, so there's the type and there's the mask. So, what I've done is I've brought in the AI file of the type over the top, turned it off, made a selection here, made a mask from it, and really pumped the contrast, and then applied that to the type, so it just eats into it. It makes it look like old paint. So yeah, but I mean, you can see, the reds that I worked out for this file, and like I said, a lot of these panels were repeated, but I've just broken them up. You can see there's a few of the kind of slight moirine repeating pattern issues at the top here, but that you never really saw that in the shot anyway. I mean, the one good saving grace, I guess, of doing any projection shots is they're moving. So, obviously any moving shot you get away with more. You're not looking at a straight image, so you've got a bit of latitude. Anyway, I mean, that kind of, like I said, covers texturing. I hope, it's a lot to cover, but, really, I just wanted to show you all the different methods I use, and I hope that it was obvious. And if you got any questions, please let me know in the forums. I'm really kind of just can't wait to get onto the project shot now. Like I said, I'm happy with the direction it's going. I'll be covering everything I guess I've done in the first 4 lessons in this, with as far as texturing and painting, and plus a whole lot more, because we'll be doing a moving shot. Now, feel free in the forums. Please talk about any questions or suggestions you've got to move on with this shot. So next lesson, what we'll talk about is, I'll kind of look at, I guess, the finished part of the concept, and we'll probably start blocking it out and look at camera move, because the camera move really determines, I guess, what else we're going to see in the shot too. Are we going to see more left or more right, or what's behind these because we've started up higher and we're coming down, or vice versa. Maybe we see a bit more of the, the wide, so maybe I do need to finish more of that. It's one of those things that, we're not going to know. I probably need to have, where is it? So this one, sorry. Maybe we're seeing, a small section of here behind here or something. I mean, obviously these look completely different at the moment, and that was kind of development. Just trying to work out where this place is. But as I said, this is very close to the I guess the vision I had in the first place of what I was trying to achieve. We just it can make a nice kind of classic film shot, I think. So the camera move will probably be quite subtle, but like I think initially I was talking about being on a jib, so maybe the arm comes down, so we're seeing maybe some of the buildings that are behind here or into a valley that